Silence is the purest form of forgiveness, for it speaks without sound and heals without demand. Zen proverb. The stillness that ends the noise. When the heart carries pain, it seeks sound. It seeks to speak, to defend, to explain. Yet the enlightened path does not rush to speak, it watches, it breathes, and it forgives in silence. Forgiving without words confuses the mind but liberates the soul. Because forgiveness is not a favor for the other, it is a medicine for oneself. When one forgives silently and walks away, the mind detaches from the chains of expectation. The silence itself becomes a sermon, a sacred language that needs no tongue. Zen teaches that everything that truly transforms happens in stillness. The seed grows without noise. The sun rises without announcement. The heart heals in silence. To forgive in silence and never speak again is to rise above the desire to prove one's pain. It is not a punishment, it is freedom. The meaning of silent forgiveness. Forgiveness is misunderstood by many. Most believe forgiveness must be spoken, that one must tell another, "I forgive you." But Zen says, true forgiveness begins where speech ends. Speech still belongs to the world of duality, right and wrong, good and bad, yours and mine. Silence belongs to the realm of truth. When you forgive in silence, you no longer hold the thought of "you hurt me." The pain dissolves into wisdom. The past loses its claws. Forgiveness becomes not an act, but a state. You do not forgive because someone deserves it, you forgive because your soul seeks peace more than proof. Silent forgiveness says, "I release this from my energy. I refuse to carry the weight of your actions. I choose calm over chaos." And when you never speak again, not from anger, but from peace, you close the karmic circle without resentment. The silence becomes the boundary that keeps your spirit clean. Why silence is the highest form of forgiveness. Words can deceive, silence never does. When you speak forgiveness, you may still hold pain. You may still wish for them to understand, to apologize, to feel guilt. But when you forgive in silence, you need nothing. You let go of the desire for closure, for justice, for explanation. The very need to be understood disappears. That is why Zen masters call silence the purest response. When the heart is at peace, it no longer reacts, it reflects. Silent forgiveness is not an escape, it is mastery over emotion. It is the moment you stop needing to change the past. To forgive quietly and move on is not coldness, it is compassion in its highest form. You are saying, without words, "I wish you peace, but you no longer belong in my energy." It is not cruelty to walk away without speaking. It is wisdom to protect the peace that silence brings. The proof in nature. In Zen philosophy, nature mirrors truth. The river does not go back to apologize to the stones that hurt it, it flows forward. The moon does not speak to the darkness that once covered it, it simply shines. The tree does not argue with the wind that broke its branch, it continues to grow. Everything in nature forgives in silence, no complaints. No revenge, only the calm rhythm of existence. This is how the wise live. They allow what was to pass through them like wine through bamboo, making sound for a moment, but never staying. When you master silent forgiveness, your soul moves as effortlessly as that wind. No scars remain, only understanding. The story of the empty bowl. Once, a student carried deep resentment toward another who betrayed his trust. He came to a Zen master and said, "My heart feels heavy, but I cannot forgive him. He ruined my peace." The master handed him an empty bowl and said, "Fill this bowl with sand each day you feel hurt." Days turned into weeks. The bowl overflowed. When the student returned, the master said, "Now carry this bowl wherever you go." The student struggled. "It is heavy." The master smiled, "So is your heart." He then emptied the bowl into the wind. The sand scattered silently. Did you hear the sand forgive the wind for taking it? The student shook his head. "That is forgiveness," said the master. When the bowl empties in silence, the soul becomes light. From that day, the student stopped seeking apologies. He forgave in silence and never spoke to those who hurt him again. Yet he walked with serenity, the kind that cannot be explained, only felt. The power of walking away quietly. Walking away without speaking is not a sign of weakness, it is the soul declaring, "I choose my inner world over external noise." When you walk away quietly, the mind of the other begins to echo with your silence. Those who once misunderstood you start to wonder. Your silence speaks where your words could not. Zen says, "The sound of silence is the loudest thunder for those who harmed peace. Your quiet departure teaches more than confrontation ever could." It tells them, you are not their enemy, you seek no revenge, you simply refuse to stay trapped in the same vibration. Forgiveness without contact does not mean hatred, it means liberation. You release them from your mental world and return to your stillness. That is the ultimate victory, to walk away clean. The inner science of detachment. To forgive in silence is to understand energy. Every thought, every emotion, every memory carries vibration. When you hold grudges, you tie your energy to the source of your pain. When you forgive silently, the knot unties. Silence cuts cords that words cannot. Silence cleans wounds that explanations only reopen. In meditation, silence is not absence, it is presence. The same law applies to forgiveness. When you choose silence, you stay fully aware but no longer reactive. You observe the hurt as clouds passing through the sky of your consciousness. You let them pass. You say nothing, you wish nothing, you expect nothing, and suddenly, peace fills the space once occupied by pain. The circle of karma ends in silence. Every connection has a karmic rhythm. It begins with attraction, deepens with interaction, and ends with understanding. When that understanding arrives, words become unnecessary. If you forgive and never speak again, you complete the karma gracefully. You do not feed it with more emotion. You do not reopen it with words. You allow it to dissolve. Zen calls this the completion of the cycle without attachment. When you keep speaking, you keep the circle spinning. When you stay silent, you close it with dignity. This is how karma ends, not through revenge, but through inner stillness. You rise above the vibration that once bound you. The universe recognizes that peace and shifts your path toward higher lessons. When forgiveness feels impossible. There are wounds that feel too deep, betrayals that echo endlessly in the heart. You may feel silence cannot heal what words fail to fix. But Zen wisdom says, do not rush forgiveness, allow silence to hold the pain until it dissolves naturally. Forgiveness is not a decision, it is a realization. It arrives when you stop fighting reality, it grows when you stop asking why. It blossoms when your heart no longer trembles at the memory. One morning, you will wake up and realize that your silence no longer carries weight, it carries peace. That is when forgiveness has taken root, that is when you can walk away forever, smiling, without a single word spoken. The mirror of self. Those who hurt you are often mirrors showing you what within still bleeds. Forgiving them silently is not about them, it is about you seeing yourself clearly. Every pain teaches. Every betrayal awakens. Without those lessons, wisdom cannot bloom, so when you forgive silently, you thank the experience, not the act. You recognize how much lighter you have become through the fire of pain. You no longer wish to punish them, you simply wish to remain in peace. That is when the self transforms. Forgiveness then becomes your natural state, not something you do, but something you are. The beauty of never speaking again. Never speaking again does not mean bitterness, it means you no longer need to share energy that once drained you. It is the choice of one who walks with clarity. Some souls are lessons, not lifetimes. Once their role in your story ends, silence is the respectful closure. To remain in contact after awakening from pain is like staying in a room after the fire has gone out, only smoke remains. Zen calls this the wisdom of departure. You leave quietly, not as an act of pride, but as an act of peace, your silence says. I bless you from afar, I carry no hate, I simply continue my journey in light. That is the highest form of forgiveness, one that no longer needs presence, proof, or conversation. The way of the lotus. The lotus grows in muddy water yet remains pure. So too must the human spirit bloom through pain without absorbing its poison. Forgiving in silence is how one remains like the lotus, untouched by the mud around it. The mud cannot stain what no longer reacts. You become the observer, not the victim. You see life not as a series of wrongs, but as an unfolding of lessons. And once you understand that, forgiveness flows naturally. Your silence becomes fragrance. Your stillness becomes power, your presence becomes peace itself. The silence that transforms others. Your silent forgiveness does not go unnoticed by the universe, or even by those who wronged you. While you move on peacefully, life begins to reflect the energy you gave. They begin to see what they lost not through your words, but through your silence. Silence becomes the mirror that reflects their choices. It awakens conscience in a way arguments never could. You do not teach them through revenge, you teach them through stillness, and your peace becomes their lesson. This is why Zen masters say, do not try to change people. Become the lesson, and let silence teach for you. The true freedom of the soul. To forgive and never speak again is not loneliness, it is liberation. You no longer depend on apologies, explanations, or outcomes. You are no longer trapped in the cycle of emotional reaction. Your soul becomes light, your energy flows freely again, the mind rests in the serenity of acceptance. Forgiveness then is not a single act, it is a way of living. You no longer resist anything that comes, nor cling to anything that goes. You walk through life like a breeze, gentle, untouchable, and endlessly free. The art of sacred silence. Forgive them, not because they apologized, not because they changed, but because you deserve silence more than noise. Forgive in stillness, walk away with grace. And never look back, let silence complete what words could not heal. In that silence, you discover the greatest truth: the soul that forgives silently cannot be bound by pain, nor controlled by memory. Forgiveness in silence is enlightenment in motion. It is when you no longer seek to win, to explain, or to prove. It is when peace becomes your only answer. When you forgive and never speak again, you transcend the world of reaction and enter the realm of being, and in that sacred quiet, your spirit whispers what Zen has always known: nothing needs to be said when the heart understands.